Imagine living in your dream home for decades, a place filled with beauty, color, and history, only to have someone rip it away just because they want it for themselves. But what happens when the dream they stole turns into a nightmare? Well, that's exactly what happened to my neighbor. And the ending? Let's just say, karma came in with a fresh coat of paint. If you've ever had someone try to take something you love just because they could, hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around, because this revenge story will have you cheering when the dream house thieves get exactly what they deserve. I've lived in this neighborhood for a long time, and in all those years, there's been one house that stood out. Not because of its size, but because of its soul. From the outside, it looked like a quaint little cottage, but step inside, and you'd be transported straight into a fairy tale. The walls were alive with murals, hand-painted scenes from Disney classics, magical forests, whimsical castles, and storybook creatures that seemed ready to leap from the plaster. All of it was the work of one woman, Rebecca. She wasn't just talented, she was the kind of person who left every space and every person better than she found them. Back in her younger days, she'd been an art teacher. Later, she ran a paint and sip studio that became a local hit. Eventually, she retired, taking commissions and decorating furniture for fun. She'd been in that house since the mid-'80s. The original landlord loved her work and had an agreement with her. The murals could stay, no problem. He even promised her that one day she'd own the home outright. But promises are only as good as the people who keep them. When the landlord passed away before putting anything in writing, ownership passed to his kids. That's when the trouble started. One of the sons brought his daughter over to inspect the property. The moment she stepped inside, I could see it in her face. That greedy gleam of someone who decides they deserve something just because they want it. And the worst part? Rebecca didn't have a formal lease. Within weeks, they hit her with a notice to vacate, citing issues with the murals as an excuse. They wanted her gone so the daughter could have the storybook house all to herself. I still remember the day Rebecca told me. Her hands were trembling as she held the eviction letter. Her voice cracked when she said, "They're taking my home because they like my art." It was cruel. She'd poured decades of love into that place, and now, in just 30 days, she had to pack up her life. But Rebecca wasn't one to sit and wallow. With the help of friends, she managed to find a property in another state, one that had a full art studio built right into the first floor. It wasn't the same, but it was hers. And that's when the idea for payback started to take shape. See, Rebecca had originally planned to just leave the house as it was, murals intact, cottage facade untouched, but a mutual friend of ours, let's call him Dave, had other ideas. Dave was a professional painter, and he'd been itching to test out his new high-powered paint sprayer. He offered to restore the house to what we jokingly called Rebecca standards, not the vibrant, colorful Rebecca we knew, but the real estate flipper kind of Rebecca, bland, lifeless, and soul-sucking. Rebecca agreed. We moved all her belongings into storage. Dave let her stay in his guest house rent-free in exchange for her painting a mural in his living room. Fair trade. Then, the transformation began. First, we sanded every single mural until the walls were blotchy, ugly, and depressing. Decades of artistry erased in hours. Then, Dave got to work with his sprayer. Kills primer coated every surface, sealing away every trace of color. 4 passes per wall, smooth and fast. When the primer dried, Dave used his flipper palette. White semi-gloss on the walls, depressing gray on the wood paneling, trim, outlet covers, cabinets and counters. The warm, inviting home turned into a cold, lifeless husk. The kitchen, once full of hand-painted fruit baskets and ivy, now gray cabinets over sterile tile. The living room, gone were the sweeping forest scenes and fairy tale castles. Instead, it looked like a cheap rental unit no one wanted to touch. But Dave wasn't done. The front of the house, once dressed up like a storybook cottage, was stripped bare. His landscaper friend took the bushes as payment for the labor, then replaced the yard with gravel, sand, and a single sad boulder. It was the most uninspired front yard you've ever seen. By the end of the week, the storybook house was dead. 2 weeks later, I was helping an old neighbor with repairs when I noticed something. The house was still empty. No lights, no movement. I asked another neighbor if anyone had moved in yet. He smirked. Saw a U-Haul there last week, but they never unloaded. Haven't seen anyone since. I can only imagine the look on that daughter's face when she unlocked the door, expecting a magical wonderland, and found a lifeless gray tomb instead. The home she stole for its beauty had been reduced to the ugliest house on the block. There's a special kind of satisfaction in knowing they got exactly what they asked for, just not in the way they imagined. She wanted Rebecca's art. Now all she had was a hollow shell, stripped of everything that made it special. Rebecca, meanwhile, was already settling into her new home, brush in hand, filling her own studio walls with even grander murals. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, and devastatingly perfect. Rebecca didn't scream, fight, or beg. She just took back the only thing they couldn't steal, her talent, and left them with the empty walls they deserved.